Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beard Blather 197. Straight talk. Yeah, sure. Straight like a corkscrew. Yes. Eh, and did I say good evening, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, I did, boys and girls. Anybody who's not entirely certain about the nature of their gender, get the fuck out. You're going to be offended anyway. Just, consider it a trigger warning. A little spill before we go. Tonight, tonight. No, there we go. We're going out live on our Odyssey channel and simultaneously in YouTube, where we shall stay for a little while, but not till it's over because, hey, we don't like YouTube. And of course, the Quad Verum timeline in Twitter, my own timeline in Twitter, now that the powers that be decided that I may not be as dangerous as alleged. And as a surprise to everybody, we're also going live on the Thomas Wictor timeline that dear Thomas here um, started some time ago for just a thread and is not posting, so don't get illusions about it. But you will be able to see these there as well. There you go.
So we should clarify that you posted it. I haven't posted anything. You oh, I hear something. I hear my own voice.
Holy crap, not from here.
Oh well. Yeah, I hear it sounds like somebody underwater drowning. Can you hear it? Oh, okay, now I can't. Take your hand away. Hello? Yeah, now I can hear it again. So
well, don't tell me that this thing is picking up.
Yes.
Something inside my ear.
It is.
Let me lower that volume inside my ear. And yeah, you were saying.
Okay. Yeah. So Saul is posting on my timeline in Twitter because I'm not posting. So Saul posted the link. I'm not going back to Twitter. I said I wouldn't, and I'm not going to because there's no upside other than calling attention to this here show. So go ahead, Saul.
There we go. So now I don't hear anything on that ear. Holy crap. Okay. I need a little bit of a return run toast, It's bad enough being deaf. Yes, okay. Anyway, so guys, this is the little reminder that this is so far free to watch, but not free to produce and all that jazz. So if you want to contribute to the channel, the best way is come over in Odyssey, become a member of the channel. That doesn't work. You can always throw a buck or two, buy us a coffee on the chat. It works pretty much the same as YouTube. And you can come over here, click on the dollar sign or on the support sign. And if that doesn't work, you can go to quadverum.com/support us. And pretty soon, if the Elon army decides to grant us the benefit of subscriptions, you will be able to subscribe in YouTube as well. Over time, we are going to change this to subscription only in Twitter. So there you go. And now, this is, of course, Saul Montes-Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information, coming to you for the very last time this month from Virginia. And right there, looking like he's trying to find something, is Thomas Wictor, the only living expert in World War I flamethrowers from California. I admire your stamina, sir. Putting up with these people is like way too much. And we're going to spend a couple of hours of our time and yours if you care to join us. That said, Thomas, how's life on the other side?
Well, okay. I never eat junk food, but today I decided I was going to go to 7-Eleven and get a small, those small bags of potato chips you can get. Just the regular Lay's potato chips. And I got two of these chocolate bars.
Caramello? I know. Filled with caramel. I love them.
Yep. $9.
Say what?
$9.
Oh shit! I can't stand that. I'll send you a box, my friend.
Well, they had one guy on duty. The shelves were about half empty, and nobody was in the parking lot. So California is doing fine, according to Gavin Newsom.
$9.
Biden is doing fine.
Caramel chocolate. That's Bidenomics, I guess.
No, and I mean $9. That's astonishing. This is why there was nobody there. This is why the shelves were half empty.
I'm trying to think, but of course, if you just walk out of the store with it, it's no longer a crime in California. It's way under $900.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, everything's okay. The Daily Wire made a movie about men playing in women's sports. It's not funny because it's a reality. Like
It's too real.
it's too real. It's may as well be a documentary. So the first official satire was a Thomas Paine pamphlet, wasn't it? Remember, it was advocating cannibalism.
Yes.
And the reason it was satirical was because, of course, there was nothing even close resembling cannibalism. He was making a point, which is what, parody and satire is supposed to do. But when the parody is indistinguishable from the reality, then where's the humor?
Right.
Everything I saw in the trailer for that.
It becomes a sad reminder of your sorry ass circumstances.
Yeah, and I guess Matt Walsh made his acting debut, and it showed him sitting on a front lawn with all these signs explaining, meat is murder, love, and he was sitting cross-legged, and he was meditating or whatever. But again, this was a reality. Like basically, he was just presenting the reality of so many idiots in this country. So where's the humor? Is the humor in the fact that it's Matt Walsh? Well, you got to give me more than that. You got to make the story funny. And the problem for Daily Wire is that you can't parody everything that's happening now. You can't parody a $9 for two small chocolate bars and a small sack of the plainest sort of potato chips, not cheese, not spicy, nothing like that. Just plain Lay's potato chips, the thin kind, not even
the kind that I was buying for $1.30 per bag not long ago.
Yeah. And in California, I mean, the businesses aren't going to be able to take another year of this. I mean, we're going to have so many. We already have stores closing left and right here in Southern California. And every other public service announcement is about how nobody can afford the cost of living. And it's like, you elected these people, so enjoy the fruits of your election.
Public service announcements. The government of California is doing public service announcements that people can't afford the basics.
Yeah.
But
And
isn't that the same assholes who tell you that no, we didn't have inflation, Bidenomics is success?
well, that's the thing. I watch a lot of police videos, and they arrested this young drunk idiot, and she said that she failed the DUI field sobriety tests because she'd never done anything like this before. And then she started talking about, she said that you have to give me my cell phone, and they said, no, we don't. She said, yes, you do. The last time I was arrested, they said that you have to give me your cell phone. And they said, but you just said you've never done anything like this before. And she said, that's right. They said, but you also said the last time you arrested. She goes, that's right. So this is Orwellian doublethink, where you're holding two ideas that oppose each other in your head at the same time, and you don't feel any conflict whatsoever.
No, they don't. I've seen a lot of that. In the past few days, I've been trying to rebuild my Twitter account to some degree so that we can promote these videos. The last time I tried to do this, in 3 weeks, they banned me again. So God knows how long my account is going to last. But it is insane. I mean, somebody was complaining that how can I defend Ukraine and attack Palestine?
I don't know what that means.
Well, both are the underdog.
Oh, so what? So what?
I know, but they can't understand the basics. So I don't engage much. I engage in monosyllables and expressions. Good for you, that kind of shit, Hopefully that won't get me banned. But I'm supposed to root for Hamas because they are the underdog.
Every terror, Al Qaeda was the underdog.
Totally fucking insane.
Yeah, the Islamic State was the underdog. Every terrorist organization in the world that picks up arms is the underdog.
Germany after Leningrad was the underdog.
Of course. Well, you could argue that Germany was the underdog in the beginning when Hitler very rashly declared war on the United States against the advice of all his generals, including Erwin Rommel, who'd served as a combat lieutenant in World War I.
And tried to kill the motherfucker eventually.
Well, Rommel said, look, Your Highness, Mein Führer, in the last war, the Americans industrialized in less than a year, and that was 20 years ago. We can't even imagine their power at this point. So do not do this. And Hitler said, "What are you talking about? Every country I threaten just rolls over on its back for me." So Hitler declared war on us on December 11th, which was 4 days after Pearl Harbor. And so we said, all right, if you want to fight, we'll give it to you. And look what happened.
Yeah, it's there is, by the way, in YouTube, somebody did a 4-chapter description of the Battle of Midway. It's so well done and so well documented. No political opinions or shit. It's just, he ordered this and this happened. They moved over here. They were detected over there. And you get a clear picture, and that until the end of that battle, it could have gone either way.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't. And from that moment on, it was just moving up. That is the very moment where the Japs lost the war. It took them 2 years and hundreds of thousands of dead to figure it out.
Well, what most people don't understand is that in terms of the Pacific theater, we didn't start getting superior aircraft until 1944,
Until the very last, yes.
which was, we declared war on the Japanese in December of 1941. So from 41, say 42, from 42 to 44, we were basically fighting with obsolete weapons all the way around. The first B-17 strategic bombers we sent into action, despite all those machine guns, they had no forward firing guns. So the Germans used frontal attacks and they brought down hundreds of them. And finally, we put a chin turret that had two forward firing machine guns, and then the top turret gunner could also fire, and that sort of ameliorated the problem. But it wasn't until 1944 when Curtis LeMay took over the strategic bombing program in the Pacific that we finally learned how to do strategic bombing, because it had failed in Europe. We'd admitted it had failed. We didn't get a superior fighter in Europe till 1944 in the P-51 Mustang. So,
which was, by the way, an adaptation of a British craft. And exactly. One of the guys who worked in the transformation, and he made it into the biggest, meanest fighter in the war, was George Batchelor, who after the war went on to found Arrow Air.
Yeah,
pay that for people.
The government insisted that we use the Allison engine for this high altitude interceptor, which meant that it could not fly at high altitudes. So the British suggested we put the Rolls-Royce Merlin in it. And so once we married this plane to the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and even then, the first design, it had it's called a Razorback, where the pilot has no rear view.
No rear.
So finally, they put a bubble canopy on it. That didn't arrive till way late in the war. So what our greatest skill was fighting very intelligently with obsolete weapons. There was a pilot who knew before we went to war against the Japanese that we were going to have to fight them, and the Japanese Zero was incredibly superior in maneuverability and speed and all that to the F-4F Wildcat, and he flew a Wildcat. So he figured out a way. It's called his last name was Thatch, and he figured out a way it's called the Thatch Weave, where two planes would fly in formation. The Japanese would attack. The planes would go apart. The Japanese pilot would follow one, and then the planes would go back together, and the Japanese plane following one of them would fly right into the sights of the other one. And they would keep going like this. And they managed to shoot down tons of Japanese aircraft. Obsolete as the Wildcat was, it was the Thatch Weave that allowed us to shoot down more. And also the Japanese did not armor their planes. So one single burst from those 50 caliber machine guns, it was
more than enough. But you just hit on something that most people don't realize. A pilot is worth 10 times the aircraft.
Exactly.
The MiG-21 was supposed to be the most evolved military aircraft in the 70s. Western pilots who got to try them swear that it was the best aircraft for maneuverability, for speed, for reaction. But they couldn't hold a candle to Americans in A4s because of how they fought, because our pilots' training was such that they could overcome the advantages of the MiG-21 and kick ass. Now, we are in a different position altogether. We have the Raptor and the F-35 and the best pilots in the world, I don't think there is a force on Earth capable of confronting them. Hello?
Okay, in the Vietnam War, there were two Navy pilots who shot down MiG-21s while flying a piston-powered Korean War aircraft called the Sky Raider. And again, it was through their training and tactics. In the Korean War, it could be argued. I mean, the MiG-15 had a much higher ceiling than the F-86 Sabre, and it was armed with two 23mm cannons and a 37mm cannon. So one round from this automatic 37mm cannon and the Sabre jet would be gone. But we had a kill rate of 17-1, and we were fighting Russians, Chinese, and North Koreans, and probably, others. But 17-1, while they were flying in a hell of a lot of ways a superior aircraft, because their training was crap, just like it is today in Ukraine. That the Russians, I just read a statistic, they've suffered 139% casualties, which means, and it's like, how is that possible? Well, it means that they're basically throwing people into combat who aren't even officially in the armed forces. So
they throw everything at the mid wave.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why in Avdiivka, after managing to conquer the equivalent of 10 city blocks, not of the city itself, but the equivalent of empty fields, at the cost of tens of thousands of casualties, they've slowed down because they're running out of people and equipment again. It's ridiculous.
They don't arm their men with anti-tank weapons, and the tanks they have, they put people in them who have no experience. So at the first sign of trouble, these guys bail out of their tanks, assuming they survive. There was just a piece of footage the Ukrainians released, and it showed what looked like a small nuclear explosion. And they're not saying.
I have it here if you want it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the fuel depot?
I don't know. It's unclear what exactly was hit.
Oh, this I can tell you what it was if it is this. There we are.
Oh no, this is something completely different. But yeah,
okay, because it looks. This is a fuel depot.
Right, and
look at this thing.
Yeah, no, you can hear it from that far away.
It is a thing of beauty, huh?
No, this was an explosion. This was a single explosion. It created this perfect dome.
Yes, I actually have the explosion too. Well,
this was in Ukraine on the battlefield, and
yes,
yeah,
I think it was.
Well, see, the Russians haven't learned anything. They put all their landmines in a pile, and then the Ukrainian drone flies over and drops one hand grenade, and all the landmines are gone. They don't produce maps for their landmines, so Russians are being blown
They
up.
They run into them.
Yeah. And okay, you and I are you tired of being right all the time?
Nah.
We said that the Ukrainians were signaling a new phase of victories by announcing that, they were defeated in the eyes of the world. And then now today, they've done nothing but carry out offensives.
Yes.
Which
did you see the size of the beachheads in Kherson?
Yeah,
the left bank of the Dnipro.
yeah. No, and
It's insane.
the Russians can't hit them. They're dropping aviation bombs not in coordination with anyone on the ground. So the pilot is dropping the aviation bomb,
The gliding bombs with
gliding
the
bomb.
aircraft out of range because they don't dare fly anywhere near the Ukrainians anymore.
So the pilot, he just drops it, and like as not, it lands on the Russians. So I mean, this is demented. And then Putin wanted a victory so he could have a big ceremony announcing his running for president again.
Yep.
But since he doesn't have anything, he got some hideous Ukrainian Russian to have a fake meeting with him in public where he just groveled and groveled and groveled about what a genius Putin was and how he freed them finally, and that they beg him, they need him again, please run, and he literally said, well, I was thinking about it, but now
twist my arm.
Okay,
if you twist my arm, I'll have to. Yeah. Just please don't poke my eyes.
It's and the Russians have won what? I mean, the world record. Oh, here's a funny story. Funny in a hideous way. The Russians have a terrible problem with cannibalism. Sexual cannibalism. They've had multiple humans, so-called, who abduct children and women, murder them, and then cannibalize them. And one of these was serving his time, and he volunteered for the front line.
Yeah, they sent Jeffrey Dahmer to the front.
They sent him to the front. He was wounded and sent home and discharged from the service with a clean record. So he's back walking the streets again.
Well, and he probably thinks that he died, went to heaven, and has a smorgasbord.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is
Jesus.
I mean, now that there's no more cops in Russia because they've all been sent to Ukraine to be killed.
Yeah. Have you lost? I've already lost count of how many people Russia has sent to Ukraine. Because it was first 180, then 300, then 500, then 300 again. And in this latest thing, I don't know how many, but they were talking of another 500,000. Are you counting them? Because they say they had 27,000 casualties. Then what the fuck? How come they don't have 1 million troops?
Well, okay. The Ukraine war, the Russia-Ukraine war, is turning everything we've said about war on its head. The Ukrainians are the defenders and the Russians are, no, let me get that the other way around. The Ukrainians were carrying out offensives. Russians were the defenders. And according to all the military textbooks, the Ukrainians should be suffering much higher casualties than the Russians. And
3-1, 4-1.
Yeah, and Russians are suffering 3-1 casualties compared to the Ukrainians. And the 300,000 dead is only the ones that have been confirmed. So by the Ukrainians, they basically have a picture of every dead body, or every person who they see was blown up by this drone or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like they check a card on checkout time,
and
so
they're not
making keep a proper.
They're not making estimates.
No.
So,
like I said, the Russians insist on something like 20,000 casualties. I don't know who the crap they want to fool. Well, probably the Russians are fooled.
300,000 is very low, and
that's the UK estimate.
Exactly. And Another rule of thumb is that if you have for every death, you have 3 wounded. Wounded
Yep.
meaning taken out of the battle.
Yeah.
But the Russians provide no medical care. So for every person killed, they may have as many as 10 wounded. We don't know. So the Russians could have lost easily. If we go by the textbook, they've lost 1 million men, but it could be 1,700,000. I mean, holy God!
But by this, of course, you don't mean dead. For the nitpickers out there, this is total casualties, dead and wounded, just put out of commission.
Dead, wounded, missing, and desert.
And that would coincide with the amount of reinforcements the Russians have been sending. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if they didn't have those casualties by now, they would be at the Polish border with so many troops. I don't think you can amass them in those trenches.
No, and another thing we were right about, the Russians, I saw a video today where a Russian artilleryman was saying that as of now, only about 20% of the ammunition they've got from North Korea is usable because
surprise.
Yeah, the way artillery works, the Soviet era artillery, is you have the artillery round, then you have separate powder bags, and that's how you determine how far this thing's going to go. You have firing tables that tell you to raise the gun, elevate it to this angle, and put
more powder.
3 powder bags. They said that the North Koreans don't appear to measure how much powder they put in. The composition.
they lost the one scale they had.
Exactly.
They don't know where it is, although somebody suspect they ate it.
Possibly. But the combination, the composition of the powder is different for every bag. And the artillery rounds will either fall short or they'll blow up the gun barrel of the artillery tube. So they don't even want to fire North Korean rounds because they don't know if they're going to blow up.
It may be the last one you ever fire.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we said.
Said
they're going to get junk.
Очень плохо, explosiva. Очень плохо. Very bad.
No, it's astonishing. So
yeah,
that's Ukraine and Russia.
I wonder if they're doing better with. I don't know. Iran was going to supply some shit, but I haven't seen it being used yet.
Well, they're giving their best missiles to Hezbollah and the Houthis. How many of those have hit?
And those ain't good for shit.
No.
I don't know how many the Houthis have already fired, but I lost count at 50.
They fired 30 armed drones at a U.S. ship, and just to humiliate Iran, we let these things get within a kilometer and a half, and then shot them all down.
Gone. Bye. And then they threw a couple of missiles at the basin, and the commander said, "Don't do shit, just wait." And they let them fly because they kept on flying and landed in the water. About 10 miles from the target. Why waste ammunition for that?
Well, see this,
and now, today, a French frigate took down 5 Houthi missiles in the Red Sea. Yeah. The French are getting their share of Houthi ass. Yeah. This is a first.
Yeah, no, I mean, Iran is being humiliated on the world stage, which is what was necessary. Hezbollah, Israel setting out to destroy Hamas, exterminate Hamas. That was a turning point in world history. This is the first time the Israelis have had nobody. I mean, Biden did his best to call them off, and we don't know what they told him. We know
they got the finger from them.
Well, Blinken.
Biden and Blinken got the bird from Israel.
They
No, we're
made a
not.
lot of threats, and the Israelis said whatever, and then went ahead, and they had nothing. Biden and Blinken had nothing, which brings me to the.
By the way, we are entering into Adult Swim territory.
Okay.
So we've been there long enough. People in YouTube, you have a link under the video to come and watch the entire video on Odyssey. Click on it. It's just one click. And if you don't, well, à toute l'heure. Did I?